the people who say, "Oh, I don't have a story," but honestly, I don't believe that. I think everyone does have a story. Uh, I mean, you may not think that the next person will find it fascinating, but everyone has a story nonetheless. A lot of things that make us unique, and I, really sat down to think about what makes me unique. And being a person who stutters is definitely one of them.
Welcome to Some Stutter Law, Newfoundland and Labrador's first podcast about stuttering. My name is Greg O'Grady, and I'm a person who stutters and the co-host of Some Stutter Law, Newfoundland and Labrador's first podcast about stuttering, along with my co-host.
And I'm Katelyn Mayo. I'm a speech language pathology student, and I'm Greg's co-host on this podcast.
Some Stutter Law mission is dismantling and rebuilding stuttering. Let's start listening. Some Stutter Law mandate is, in the spirit of Newfoundland and Labrador's humor, robust and frank interactive discussions, Some Stutter Law podcast aims to rebuild confidence and hope for today's and tomorrow's person who happens to stutter by dismantling stuttering myths, stigma, stereotypes, and barriers.
The objectives of Some Stutter Law podcast are supporting, raising awareness, and increasing understanding and acceptance of stuttering, providing people who stutter, their families, professionals, students, and the general public with current information, research, and resources about stuttering, and promoting advocacy and support for people who stutter.
Today, Some Stutter Law welcomes Ryan Cowley. Ryan was our first guest on Some Stutter Law when we launched in March of earlier this year. Time flies when we're having fun. So since our launch, since we had Ryan as our guest, Ryan is now a published author. Congratulations, Ryan.
Thank you, Greg.
Ryan just published his book called All the Right Words, My Journey as a Sports Writer Who Stutters. And I read the book, and finding the right words to describe and summarize in a few lines Ryan's book is challenging for me. By being admirably honest, drawing on his long-standing struggles, Ryan Cowley in his book sheds light on an affliction which is little known about and which affects 1% of the world's population, stuttering. Ryan, as I was saying, congratulations. And would you like to share a little bit about what made you decide to write the book, and how is the sales coming along?
Yeah, of course, Greg. To start off, thank you for the congratulations. I appreciate that. Honestly, the first time someone, it was a manager had a job I had back in 2013. He wasn't a hog fan per se, but he was a sports fan. So, so every so often he was interested in reading my articles. So, so I sent him a few. And then once my contract ended on my last day, I just sat in his office, thank him for everything. And and then we had discussion, basically work-wise, what I was going to do next, and had, just had a nice conversation. And then he suggested, why don't you write a book? And to be honest, before that, I never really thought about it. But over the next few days, I thought about more. Unfortunately, with work and personal life, just things kind of added up during that time. So I kind of put the book idea on the back burner. But it wasn't until maybe it was shortly after the pandemic began. And my older brother is also a writer and has always been very encouraging. He he's also a big hockey fan. That I became LA Kings fan because of him, actually. And he'd been reading a lot of my stuff, and he said around May or June of 2020, he said, you know what? I think you have enough. I think you have enough material to write a book. Now, I mean, like specifically, I think when he said that, I think he may have meant a culmination of my articles, but no, you know, and I do plan on writing a book like that sometime in the near future. But for starters, I do remember thinking, you know what, first and foremost, and maybe I can write a book about myself, because no, because like that's the most fascinating thing about just human interactions. Like, no, no matter where you're from or who you are, like, no. Sorry, let me reword that. You know, the people who say, "Oh, I don't have a story," but honestly, I don't believe that. I think everyone does have a story. I mean, you may not think that the next person will find it fascinating, but everyone has a story nonetheless. And from my brother's suggestion, I really just started thinking about that. And you know, a lot of things that make us unique, and I, you know, really sat down to think about what makes me unique, and you know, being a person who stutters is definitely one of them. And and I remember when I started sports writing in around 2009 or 2008 rather, and for years I just been writing, I shouldn't say just, but I've been writing like opinion pieces and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but after a few years it just came to a head where it's like, you know, as much as I enjoy this, I want to do something more. And I thought just casually, oh, how great it would be to interview people from like in a different city or across the country or across the continent. And I thought, well, I'm sure there is a reason. I'm sure there is a way to do that. Because initially I was like, oh, woe is me, I stutter. Too bad I can't do that. And then I thought, well, and remember, this was around like 2014 or 15. So like, and my brother again also suggested, well, you know, with just technology these days, or even then, you know, I'm sure there's a way to get around that that issue with me speaking on the phone. I don't know, and I began like just researching new ways to speak on the phone, and then I started just looking for people to interview. When I started reaching out to people, I didn't think they'd respond. To my surprise, the vast majority of them did and accepted. So, yeah. So long story short, it's like, well, you know what? You know, I didn't think about it at the time, but just recently I did. It's like, well, this is a fairly unique perspective. Like, I'm a sports writer, but I'm a sports writer who stutters and has a really hard time using the phone as a result. So it's like, yes. So really, it took the book idea more seriously. You could talk about that. I could talk about how I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. You know, and and I could talk about just other challenges in my life. And yeah, that was that.
Ryan, I applaud you in being so transparent and so self this it's so self disclosure about your health issues, your struggles with depression, mental
Yeah.
health. Well, that actually took a lot of courage just to acknowledge your health and mental health issues related to stuttering. Do you want to share what made you feel it was important to be so transparent? That took a lot of courage, and I applaud you, Ryan.
Well, thank you, Greg. No, yeah, to answer your question, I don't know, my dude's always been, and I wrote this in my book. It's like, say hypothetically you're speaking to like, say you're speaking to like 30 people, for argument's sake. For argument's sake, 28 or 29 of those people may not be impacted, but you know what? If you like connect with just one person, it is very worthwhile. And the reason I say that is because if this were because there were points within the last 10 years when my depression was worse than it was at other points, and and I just put myself in the position, of a listener or a reader or watcher, and say that yeah, if I were in that position and someone was telling me their story, that would have really helped me a great deal. Yeah, so
Ryan, as I just mentioned, this really takes a lot of self courage to actually share and just go below the surface of the iceberg to really get in touch with these emotional components, the mental health components of stuttering. How do you feel now in terms of having shared all this? Do you feel better? Do you feel healthier emotionally, psychologically? What can you share about that?
No. You know what? After, yeah, you know what? I felt a lot better after I wrote that, and it's funny because because I am certainly confident, but at the same time I'm also kind of modest in a lot of ways. So and when I say that, I mean there's some of my articles, some of my writing where it's I'm not going to read again. Sometimes because I don't have time, but other times because I'm a bit self-conscious. I mean, outside of the proofing editing process, of course. But no, no. But there are those articles, that I'm so proud of, that I feel so good about, that I'll read over again. And no, no, no. No, no. And my battle with depression in my book was a good example of that, because because depression, for me at least, it's to talk about it. No, no. It's one of those things. There's a lot of gray in between the black and white. It's like, like, I want to be honest, but on the one hand, I don't want to be too honest, but at the same time, I don't want to be like, kind of like guarding myself or walking on eggshells. No, no. It's like, like my goal when the book was done, and even before it was published, I want to say I'm happy I said this. I'm happy with everything I disclosed. I didn't want to leave saying, oh, well, I'm glad I said this, but you know what, there was that. I wish I said that, and et cetera, et cetera.
You also mentioned in your book, Ryan, that the importance of having a strong support and safe network of family, friends, colleagues, and allies and significant others is necessary with reframing one's perspective and struggling with depression and mental health issues. And I'm thinking now, tomorrow is the International Stuttering Awareness Day, and people who stutter, many people stutter feel very alone and isolated. Do you want to share a little bit about that, Brian?
Yeah. You know what? I can't emphasize enough how important the Stuttering Awareness Day is, because, like, no. Because I think, while I think the attention and the serious, I don't know if seriousness is the right word, but the attention that that stuttering or stammering has been getting, it has been a lot better the last few years. But also could be better. Like for example, thank you for privacy. I won't mention names, but there was a close friend of mine who told me that within the last few months, he was looking for a job, and and someone basically told him that it wouldn't be a good fit. Because he stuttered, and it's like, now of course, in fairness, I don't know the details of the job, but at the same time, it's like but you know what, it's like in my professional life, at least, I mean, I can honestly say for the last decade plus, that last decade, I really have. I mean, work life, personal life, like, it's all about adapting, and I can say personally, I've never had to worry about my stuttering, because because if need be, whether working from home, but also like before the pandemic, it's like if you have trouble speaking, well, there are, you shouldn't turn anyone away because they stutter for any or for anything, because if you have a hard time doing something a certain way, well, you know what, there are alternative ways to do that. And it's take me, it's working from home, we have a lot of Zoom and Google Meet meetings, and with my managers and my colleagues, we have an understanding where I'll always try, but if I have a really, really hard time, I'll just write in the chat box, or I'll send a message in GChat or through email. And it's I'll go into a job interview, and I'll be honest, I'll say, if asked me what my biggest weakness is, it's probably verbal communication on account of my stutter. But but you know what? It's but immediately I'll say, but what I can do, what I'm capable of, that more than makes up for that. So, yeah.
Katelyn, I'm wondering now if you have a few questions.
Of course. I think the first thing that I've been wondering is that we haven't kind of touched on yet is what the public response has been about your book, how it's been promoting your book, and what you've heard from people who've read it and things like that, kind of what feedback you've been getting and things like that.
Sure, yeah. To be honest, to my delight, it's been more along the same lines as Greg's response. Greg, thank you again, by the way. I don't know. Some of the key words. Just people saying, it was Ariana's very honey and all that. You know what? Some book, right now, at least, it's only sold on Amazon. So, so every so often I just check in on the Amazon reviews. It's been overwhelmingly good. I've been pleasantly surprised. Not that I was hard on myself and thought people hated, but at the same time, it's the collective feedback has been great. 8 so far.
Ryan, is there another book in the horizon?
Yes, Greg. Thank you for asking. Yes, I don't know when it'll be. Probably it won't be before the new year, but as you know, and as people who read my book know, I'm a fan and a writer of the NHL's Los Angeles Kings, and and I've taken enormous pride in interviewing. It's basically going to be a collection of my interviews with former Kings, and which dates back to 20s. Geez, I'm trying to think. I believe it's 2014 or 15. I'm sorry, I'm usually very good with dates, but I'm blanking on the exact date I started. I mean, I have more original ideas down the road, but yeah, for my next book, I do plan on just putting together a collection of my interviews, my most favorite interviews, and now, of course, I will be reaching out to each person. Just ask their permission and all that. But again, I don't know when. If I were ballparking, maybe around March or April of 2022.
Well, Ryan, I'm really looking forward to reading your next book because in summary for me, I read your book, and as I was saying, I'm in awe with it. I'm in awe with with your transparency and your honesty. And
I appreciate that.
For me, Brian, all the right words. My journey as a sports writer who stutters is not only a book about stuttering and sports writing. It is a book about resiliency and perseverance. All the right words, my journey as a sports writer who stutters is a truly remarkable inspiration, emotionally uplifting and humorous. And Ryan, it is a must read and a reread book. So thank you very much for stepping up to the plate and sharing your story with us and the public.
Yes. Thank you. Egg and Katelyn. Yeah.
Katelyn, do you have any last questions for Ryan?
Not really any last questions. I just want to say that I'm looking forward to reading this book. I've heard great things. It's in my Amazon cart.
Oh, nice, awesome.
Yeah, I'm drowning in textbook readings and stuff right now, so I'm excited for the semester to calm down so I can read a book for fun. And
nice.
I've been recommending the book to people because I'm taking a fluency disorders course right now, so I've been sharing the book around.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for that, Katelyn. And Katelyn, I just want to say one thing. Well, and to you, Greg, as well. I listened to the episode last week with Eddie Lack. Great job, Eddie. As you know, I wrote my forward, and Eddie just an awesome down to earth guy, which is one of the reasons I asked him to write my forward. But you know what? But Greg did mention that your boyfriend got really excited when he heard Eddie Lack was on. So yeah, that is awesome.
Yes, he did enjoy listening to that episode.
All right, awesome.
So that was pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, great stuff.
Well, Ryan, I also applaud Eddie's honesty in his forward in your book. That was really fascinating. And Kayla and I had a great time in interviewing Eddie. We really did. And yeah. He's a nice guy.
He is. And like I remember when I reached out to him, he mentioned this on the episode. Like I reached out to him after I heard about him, just to express my sympathy because I obviously know what that's like. And honestly, like usually when people respond like that, usually when people respond, I mean, no fault of their own. They're probably just busy. It's like they just say a quick thank you and that's it. But like, no. No, but Eddie's response was to his credit, very kind, enthusiastic, and no, 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 no. No, no. Yeah, and Eddie and I talked back and forth for a while, and unfortunately, my team England lost in the Euro final, and because he went for Italy, yes, we owe each other dinner for whichever team won. Unfortunately, Italy won, so I guess I owe him dinner. So.
Ryan, I liked your comment about each person who stutters has their own story. Okay, everybody has their own story, and but I've learned, and Katelyn will support this, that the more that we hear other people's stories, share their stories, the more it is very uplifting and motivating for us. Now, do you have any thoughts to share with other people who stutter now that are thinking about writing a book, or in terms of I guess in terms of the healing, because there's a lot of healing, the reconciliation goes on once you write.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, it may sound a bit cliche, but cliches are cliches for a reason, because they're true. But be proud of who you are, and embrace your stutter. And I say that because because when I was a kid, and even as a teenager, I fell in a bad habit of like like whenever I started, I just I just found sort of a creative way to conceal it, sometimes it was like cover my mouth, or sometimes I'd be like suddenly like I'd be like I'm like, oh geez, whoa, what happened there, kind of thing. And it's like you know what, it's like I mean, take it from me, like the more you hide it, less happy it'll be. So yeah.
Ryan, thank you very much for sharing your story with us.
Absolutely, anytime.
And also, thank you again for spending the time to chat with Katelyn and I today. So we really appreciate it.
Some Stutter La, Newfoundland and Labrador's first podcast about stuttering, has so much to talk about. Let's start listening.
This has been an episode of Some Stutter La, Newfoundland and Labrador's first podcast about stuttering. Some Stutter La is hosted and produced by Greg O'Grady, Katelyn Mayo, Dr. Paul DeDecker, Melanie Crane, Emily Murphy, and Luca, Dinu. Some Stutter La is available on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and Radio Public. You can also check out the Some Stutter La channel on YouTube. To ask a question, send us a comment or suggestion, or just get in touch. Find us online at Some Stutter Podcast on Instagram, or Some Stutter Love Pod on Facebook. And thank you for It's me.